Alrighty, today's question, I'm actually paraphrasing the question because I think the original question is not as interesting as this one. So, what are the main differences between being an employee versus being a founder? And I say founder slash employer slash boss slash whatever you want to mention, but someone owning the business versus someone working for the business. Now, a little bit of context. I've been working for 12 different companies, small, big, international companies, local companies, 3 different industries, 3 different countries. So I got a good experience when it comes to being an employee. And the longest tenure I had was about 2.5 years. And it was in Argonaut, UK company, video games, and actually went bankrupt. But anyway, I should have left earlier anyway. So longest tenure, 2.5 years. In comparison, as a founder, I have experience only in one company, my own one, my current one, QuickMail.io. I'm bootstrapped, which means I had 0 investors. I'm a solo entrepreneur, no co-founders. And I'm financially successful, which means for me and my criteria, it means profitable. So it's not always the same criteria when it comes to massive companies with lots of funding, but for me it means being profitable. Longest tenure, it's 5 years so far and counting. And I don't intend to sell the business anytime soon. I don't intend to remove myself from the business anytime soon. So virtually I could last as long as my business is lasting. Now, why is that? Why did I leave? What is my maximum tenure, 2.5 years as an employee versus 5 years and potentially more as an employer or founder slash solopreneur, whatever. Now, that's interesting. It comes to a lot of different things, but I quickly brainstormed and I had like 3 main points, the differences between my career as an entrepreneur and my career as an employee. The first one is when someone is an employee, that person thinks a lot in terms of boss. And when the person is a founder, in my position, I'm thinking more about customers. Now, both actually, it makes sense because both actually just bring the money. In the case of an employee, it's your boss, virtually, that actually allocates money to you financially. So you depend on your boss in terms of money. As a founder, you depend on your customers. Sometimes you're investors, but like I mentioned, I don't have any investor, and I'm happy about that. Maybe I should do a cast, but ask me a question about this if you want me to answer about this. So that kind of makes sense. And as an employee, if you're losing your one boss, then you're basically using your job at the same time. And I've been fired from probably 2, maybe 3, I can't recount, can't recall, I didn't count anyway. But that means that technically, my career as an employee just stops as soon as I get fired. Or as soon as I leave. We're going to come back on that later. As a founder, losing one customer, unless you're a freelancer with just one customer in your portfolio, which basically means you're pretty much an easy employee to get rid of, that's what contractors are for, then you're basically losing only one client. It's losing money and it's an opportunity to improve. It doesn't mean you lose the business with the client, so the client doesn't go away with the business. So that's a massive advantage right there and there. The second thing, actually I got more, but I said the second thing is that the impact as an employee is not as strong as a founder. And that's a massive thing as well. If you really want to have a big impact, as an employee, sometimes it's very difficult. And I'm not talking about like being number 2 at Apple or those sort of things, but I'm talking about generally as an employee you have to please your boss first before you can please your customers, because I don't think you're gonna last very long if you're only pleasing the customers and not the people in between. So there's like an extra hoop before actually getting the value to the customer. As a founder, you can go straight and then just, that's much easier and much faster. You don't have a derivative value, you have the direct value. I think that's a really big and empowering thing because founders think more about how they can use their time, be the most efficient, have the better return on investment, better productivity and so on, where the employee is more having to sort of fulfill some responsibility that sometimes are not necessarily totally aligned with actually getting the end final value. And I'm talking especially in sort of like bigger organization where there is multiple layers before you can even, sometimes you don't even, can't relate to even the customer. You never try the product, you never talk to a customer. So it's very difficult. And the other thing is the founder has like entire responsibility about everything, and the employee usually has a responsibility that is really well scoped. So for example, if you're a customer support, for example, you wouldn't have to do accounting for the company unless you're such a small company and then you're just one guy do all kind of thing. But that's how I'm thinking. As a founder, the responsibility is enormous, which actually is something that attracts me. I like having the responsibility of everything on my shoulders. If I screw up, then that's all on me, and that's okay. I'm happy. That's my type of thing. Where I know some founders have difficulties with this because they're thinking like, I want to go back from founders to be an employee because then it's much easier, this is my scope area under which, I'm responsible, and everything else I don't have to worry about. So I can focus only on what I like and stuff like that. So that's okay, but that's a massive, big difference that you're gonna have to figure out for yourself. And then the last thing is an interesting one that I didn't think of, and that's probably one of the reasons why I've been to so many different companies as an employee, and I'm still on one here on my quick mail company, is because if you're losing mojo, which is basically at some point, you kind of wake up and it's like, I don't really feel like, there's something off, or, you're sort of losing your energy or your passion or something like that. Then as an employee, usually what you do is you go ahead and search, for a different position, different job or different company, or, try to change something on the environment, thinking that, whether, hey, my values, my opinions are not valued, or hey, I don't think I'm earning enough money, or X, Y, Z. There's always something coming up as a sort of like support explanation as to why, that mojo is being lost one way or another. And so as a founder, the big difference, massive difference, is that you can lose your mojo and no one will fire you, especially if you're a solo founder and then you don't have any co-founder. You can just, stay there in zombie mode for X number of time, and unless your customers are leaving you, then you're fine. So you get the luxury, and I say it's a luxury, to just stick around until your mojo comes back. And for me, it happens like 3 times. I'm in a mastermind group with other founders, and it kind of like, it's interesting to see that it goes in cycle. Like, this year there was like 1 or 2 other people that lost their mojo. The year before that was me, and we kind of like, it does happen. As an employee, you switch job. As a founder, you get the luxury to stick around. And for me specifically, I've seen, and what I've seen as well in your mastermind group and so on, the mojo lost is usually 1 to 3 months, maybe 4 months. For me, I think the longest one I had was 6 months, and it was really, really long. And it's not that you don't work anymore, it's just like, there's something missing, that you lost your flame, you want to push, you really want something and so on, and then that stuff doesn't happen, and it's just like, it's a phase. And for me, it's usually when I lost the strategical direction and vision of where I want to go. And it's like, I'm like in limbo mode, and it's just like, I don't really know. And then most of my tasks become maintenance tasks instead of becoming growth-oriented tasks. But as soon as I know where, this is where I want to go, I can see the product being that way and so on, and then I have this sort of vision and direction, then, my mojo is back in no time. I'm like super happy, and then I go very fast, which is actually the case at the moment. So I'm very grateful for being an entrepreneur and a founder and a solopreneur on my company. And that's it for today. As usual, if you have any questions, put it in the comment. If you like, thumbs up and share. If anyone else is struggling as an employee and then going from job to job, maybe all he needs is just to become the employer and then jump on the other side. Or if someone is complaining, then, as usual, they can try the other side. That's it for today. Like I mentioned, any question in a comment, thumbs up again and share again. And I see you tomorrow.